Good evening. Absolutely a fantastic good evening to everyone. Sorry, I'm just taking my sound off my phone. Thank you very much for joining us. Good evening, Serena. Tonight we've got our mate Alistair on from A Force for Good. The gist of it is Paul's read a bit of his book, and we're going to promote his book and learn about that. Also, he's got some other information as well about a demo in Scotland this weekend, and he'll tell us about that. But first of all, I just want to say welcome. Thank you, everyone. Please share the stream. If you like our party, contact us. And if you want to support us, please do. You can do that. And it's important, guys. I'm 5,000 subscribers on my YouTube. Please watch my videos and comment on YouTube. That will give us a bit of revenue that will go towards getting our thousands, tens of thousands of leaflets that we need. Tens of thousands, guys. I off-ed, I know there's 30,000 leaflets needed off-ed, and that's a smaller number, that. So we need tens of thousands of leaflets. So please get donating to us. You've seen that we're doing stuff, and there's a lot going on at the moment. There's a lot of gatherings out and protests outside hotels and stuff like that. And just in the midst of a plan to force councils to take note of this, and councillors start talking to protesters. But you'll see that over the next couple of weeks. But thank you very much. I think we're also live streaming to Alistair's X and Facebook channel, as well as my X channel, YouTube, NHP UK TV, and NHP UK TV on Facebook. But let's get on to Alistair, and we'll ask him about Alistair, what made you write a book? How did you start off with that?
Well, thanks very much for having me on your National Housing Party UK programme. I do appreciate that. The book came about as a result of me realising that there wasn't assembled in any one place a list of policies to address the mass immigration and fraudulent asylum seeking problem that's going on. I notice a lot of parties have some very good ideas, but they're not necessarily all assembled in one place. So I thought what we really need is a book which can bring together all the best ideas on all the separate issues, because there's legal immigration, there's illegal immigration, there's asylum seeking, there is also then the matter of deportation in some cases, and there's also the related matters around the whole immigration issue, such as the power of the legal system and the power of the NGOs and charities to actually set the debate. And there's also the democratic issue of who is it that gets to vote in our country and actually elect the politicians, and are these British citizens or are they not? And so I decided to put together a very comprehensive document in 315 pages, and it was basically a year in the making. And I used some ideas as well from the National Housing Party. In chapter 11, in the chapter called Return to Sender, which is about deportation, I actually reference the National Housing Party, and I say here in footnote 3, this 4-step programme is inspired by material we read on the National Housing Party UK website. So lots of good ideas in this book, which is called Protect Our Country. Now, its subtitle is A Big Book for the Union Volume 2, because I have in my head at least 5 volumes that I want to write. The first volume was released at the end of 2023 and is simply about the union of the United Kingdom and why it's a good thing. So this is, and it was called One Big Country. Now, this One is volume 2, and it's called Protect Our Country, which is a set of policies to stop mass immigration. And these are policies which are specifically ensured to appeal to everybody, not just to people like us who have been in this field for many years, but for Mr. and Mrs. Average who think this is an important issue, but I don't really know how to talk about it. And if I did know how to talk about it, I don't really know what sort of things to suggest. And so all of these policies are policies that you could take anywhere, to anybody, to any audience, and get lots of people behind it, which I think is the important thing at the moment, because what we need to do is to normalize the immigration restriction conversation. And goodness me, we've come a long way in the last year, even in doing that. So this is my contribution to normalizing the immigration restriction conversation and giving people the words that will ensure they're able to describe the necessary actions, because without words there can be no action, as they say. So that's the book, and it's written in a style which is very easy to understand. I don't like the academic language which defeats people even before they've begun. I've kept statistics as minimal as possible, but I certainly have introduced the important statistics in here. And there's the sort of arguments and ideas that you can understand, that you can remember, and that you can repeat to your friends, to your family, down the pub in a conversation. So it's pitched to, as I say, everybody. And
it was can I just
accessible.
Put in there, Alistair, a second, because I found it very easy to digest. You've kept it very simple, but it's very structured. It's almost like a reference book, but it's really good that you've clarified all the terms, because people are not always certain what they're talking about with immigration. There's been a deliberate policy since the Second World War to sort of dumb down this issue and to make it not a topic of real conversation, not a topic to enter the common conversation of the country. It's been, they tried to say it's a bit dirty to talk about immigration. Of course, the word racist will come up very quickly, little Englanders. But we need just a very simple and logical approach to this issue. What is happening to our country? Why is it happening? Of course, it's the hot topic at the moment, isn't it? It's the hot topic of the future as well, we know, because we have this notion of the great replacement. I don't think you really addressed that directly, but I mean this notion that there is a conspiracy behind mass immigration, that it's been deliberately done, because your focus is on Britain and how it's affected Britain, how it affects protect our country, but of course immigration is saturating Europe and indeed the Western world. I mean, you see what happened to Australia. Australia's been transformed. People don't realise. Like, there's almost 1 million now Muslims in Australia, and you see, I've been focusing over the past decade on immigration into Ireland, because I've been saying to the Irish repeatedly, you have not got the hinterland to absorb these people. You're going to be overwhelmed very quickly. And this has happened in Dublin, it's happening in Cork. But I mean, I didn't really think of Scotland, because I always think of Scotland, to be honest, in my heart, as a region of Britain. I know you, up in Scotland, you regard yourselves as a country, but for me, it's just another region of Britain, and it's facing the problems that every region of Britain is facing. But if you look at Scotland as a nation, they're in the same predicament as Ireland, probably worse. And so there's so many immigrants to Scotland are going into Glasgow, are going into the big city. What is Glasgow like now, Alistair? I mean, for me, Glasgow was always a city that was marked by sectarianism, And so there must be a new form of sectarianism emerging, because the Pakistanis, they have a very distinct culture. They're not going to integrate into British culture, only to the degree which is, good, advantageous for them. They will maintain their separateness, especially with their women. It is amazing that how few Pakistani women go to work. They stay at home, they have massive families, they're hidden, but they're building up these colonies in every city, and they're getting bigger and bigger. They're growing. I call them colonies. They're not ghettos, they're colonies. They're growing day by day, year by year. And of course, they've got the political elite behind them, supporting them. What's been the impact on Glasgow, the city of Glasgow, of this rapid mass influx of especially Pakistanis?
Well, it's a good question. The Glasgow has had quite it's had a Pakistani community for many years since the 50s, which has been growing every year. And it's been slightly different, I think, in Scotland, because many of the Pakistanis would be more middle class in Scotland, more of the professional class, especially in wherever they settled in Scotland, which wasn't really very many places other than largely Glasgow. Unlike in England, where there was an awful lot of Pakistanis of the lower classes, if we put it that way, going into all the big towns, whereas Scotland's had a more kind of stratified Pakistani community, which hasn't really caused any issues in Scotland, and it's small enough not to impose in any sense. However, that is definitely changing. And it's people now from all over the world, India, Africa, and no doubt more people from Pakistan. And it's really become obvious in the last couple of years, and especially in the last year, as it's become obvious everywhere, that there's an awful lot of people, and you see them everywhere. And it's, what are they actually doing here? And a lot of them are not necessarily the asylum seekers, but it's like families of Africans. And I don't know why they're here. I mean, are these people who are care workers and they've been able to bring in their families or whatever? But it's not like the Africans don't look like they've come over on the boats. So did they come for jobs? If so, like, nobody really knows, and I'm one who studies it, for crying out loud. So there's this very clear that there is a big demographic change now, and especially if you go into the center of Glasgow during the day, you also notice that also. Now, that's not necessarily the case in some of the smaller towns and villages, but it is still beginning now. You can go to the most obscure town in the Highlands, and you'll see strange males. Like, why are they here? So there is a sense that they're everywhere. And you are right in that Scotland is like the Republic of Ireland in that we are very much vulnerable because we have a very small population, and it's dispersed in on page 292 here. I actually look at the figures, and I say in 2022 we had 5.5 million of a population. Of that, over half a million were born outside of the UK. So that's a population of 5.5 million, of which 500,000 are born outside of the UK. And of those, the overwhelming number are aged between 15 and 39. And so when you work that out using the population of native Scots who are in that age group, you find that 1 in 5 people in Scotland between the ages of 15 and 39 were born outside the UK. So that's 20% of that core young demographic, 15 to 39, already in Scotland. 20% are born outside the UK. And so you don't need to be bringing in the numbers for very long before that within a generation has transformed Scotland into something that would be, for most of us, looking like a foreign country, not a country that we're used to. And so, you know, that's demographically, Scotland is very vulnerable to having its population essentially replaced by people from the rest of the world, people who have their own countries. You know, all these people have their own countries. This is as I like to say, this is the only country I have. It's the only country you guys have. You know, we're not gonna go to Syria or Ghana or Afghanistan.
Let me get in. Thank you very much for that introduction. And after Paul's read the book, I'll be wanting to get my eyes on it. I just want to read you out an email that I got this week, and it's a kind of email that always puts a lot of spirit into me. He's called Luke, and he's from Preston. I don't expect a response, but I love what you are standing for. I live in Preston, and we suffer the same immigration problem with hotels as everywhere else. Please help us take our country back. So thank you very much, Luke. I've put you on our email list, so you'll get regular emails and that the videos that we're doing. But, you know, I like that. And I have actually gone semi-viral this weekend. I've had a lot of contact with people in Oldham. People have been asking me what to do. And I said, we'll get to a protest, come and stand and up in elections. That's what we want. And I'm going to impress that. And so we're doing good. We're doing good. And people are seeing that we're standing up for the right things. But I'll be looking forward eventually to get hold of Alistair's book after Paul's finished with it. I just want to give a big shout out to Alistair's fans, 98 on X there, a couple on Facebook, but please subscribe to my channel, my YouTube channel. Alistair's a lovely guy. I love the stuff he's doing and everything around Scotland and that. And you've got a big demo coming up. Tell us about it.
Absolutely. That's going to be this Saturday, the 6th of September, and it's going to be outside the Holyrood Parliament at 12 noon for a 12:30 start. Now, we're calling it Enough is Enough. We actually had our very first Enough is Enough rally in George Square in Glasgow last year at this time. George Square this year is currently shut off for renovation. So we thought, let's have the second Enough is Enough rally outside the Parliament itself, because it is the politicians who are to blame for the situation that we're in. And so the time is very fortuitous. It's lots been going on as far as the immigration issue is concerned, and all the hotel protests as well. So it's a good time to be able to get this event outside Holyrood itself. We're expecting a good crowd will be there. As it happens, we're also holding it at the same time as the Scottish nationalist group called All Under One Banner is having its annual march down the Royal Mile and ending at Holyrood as well. But it's been organised in such a way that the two groups will be separated. But we are emphasising the importance of immigration control, because we have a Holyrood election next year on the 7th of May 2026. And what we want to do between now and then is to bring people together around the idea that mass immigration into Scotland and Britain has gone too far, and that fraudulent asylum seeking is absolutely outrageous and needs to end. We want to bring people together around that idea. And in that sense, we can bring unionists and we can bring the Scottish nationalists who might not like the United Kingdom, but at least have a concern for Scotland. So we can bring both sides together around that matter. And by doing so, we can normalize the conversation about immigration control, meaning that it will become an issue for the very first time. It will become an issue at the Holyrood election next year. And if we can
normalise is a strange word, Alistair, because there are a lot of emotions around this issue. The left see their role as facilitating mass immigration and open borders, and anyone who challenges that, they will attack ferociously and with a lot of emotion. You know, this narrative, refugees are welcome here. They want to depict all the immigrants as sort of victims and people in need and people we should have compassion on. It's a totally fictitious narrative, but it's one they use constantly. We have to expose that. This is the important thing about this book. We have to expose the lies around immigration. Now, cost of immigration is a key issue here. These people, 80% of immigrants into this country, it's probably more now. Talk just before the fact that these Muslim women never seem to work. 80% of immigrants that come into Britain spend their whole life on benefits. And this is costing each one of them, on average, I put up a figure of 50,000, but the EU said it's 200,000 euros per immigrant per year, the total cost. And when you see what they're actually getting, I mean, they're not only getting benefits to live on, and they're not only getting their sort of taxes paid, such as council tax, they're also accessing our National Health Service and almost monopolising our National Health Service. I mean, try and get to a dentist, going to an A&E in a hospital, and you're at the back of the queue. So they're getting priority in the NHS, and of course they're flooding into our schools. There's 500 schools now in the UK with less than 2% Indigenous pupils. 500. That's less than 2%. There's over 3,000 where the Indigenous population is actually the minority in these schools. And this is where the impact of this demographic change is being seen most vividly in the under 21s. And this augurs really badly for the future. We're being replaced rapidly by third world immigrants from the Indian subcontinent, from sub-Saharan Africa, from the Far East. Oh, and we've got to take, well, you know, we are responsible in one sense, but this was all engineered from above. Before the Great Replacement, before uncontrolled mass immigration, which is what we have, it's not controlled, it's 1 million a year coming in, 20,000, what is that? 20,000 a week in, week out, just pouring into our country, demanding access to our welfare state, colonizing our welfare state, taking over our welfare state, and we're being pushed out of our own welfare state. Our poor are now the ones who are actually financing the immigrants. We're having to pay extra council tax, the working poor. We're having to pay higher rents. Everything is hitting us really hard. But the way they engineered this, before this sort of mass immigration, this great replacement, which it is, demographic replacement has taken place, they engineered the great sterility, I call it. They made us sterile. They caused our population growth to collapse. They caused our reproduction to decline rapidly from 2.6 children per female, which is replacement level, down now to really, amongst the Indigenous population, it's down to 1. I mean, that means that effectively our own Indigenous population will halve over a lifetime because they promoted abortion, they promoted sexual perversity, they promoted the breakup of the family, the breakup of the extended family. They've promoted divorce. This was all done in 1967 by the Labour government. They brought in laws to legalise easy divorce, to legalise homosodomy, to legalise abortion, and to undermine the Christian basis of our family life in this country. This is what Harold Wilson did in 1967. And these laws, Mrs. Thatcher tried to limit it to some degree, especially on the promotion of homosodomy, especially on the limiting abortion to reduce it from 28 to 24 weeks. She wanted to reduce it to 22. tried to control it, but that's been the only attempt. This is what has really exposed the Conservatives, because when Boris came in, he didn't seek to address any of these issues. Instead, he promoted the Boris wave, another surge of mass immigration, and the consequences we are facing now. It's not the left, just Harold Wilson and the Labour Party who betrayed us on this issue. It's the Conservatives as well. They've totally surrendered on this issue. Since the knife Maggie in 1990, they've become pure globalists. And this is the essence of globalism, is the destruction of the nation. I mean, your book, Alistair, is called Protect Our Country. Their goal is to remove any protections that our country enjoys, to destroy our borders, to completely obliterate our national economy. We're seeing this deindustrialization. We're losing any sense of autarky, ability to produce our own wealth. We're now dependent on global finance. And so before they pushed mass immigration as we see it now, they engineered this mass sterility of the British population. We have to reverse that as well. We have to increase our birth rate and strengthen our families again. This is why we're a Christian party, because all this fertility, this fruitfulness of the British population, which has endured for centuries, came from our Christian morality, traditional Christian morality. I mean, even the churches have been corrupted, haven't they? So there's big issues around immigration. Immigration starts off the big debate, really. What's the future of our country? But we have to, I mean, as I say, the issue of finance, the cost of it, we're actually paying for our own replacement. We're paying to be pushed out of our own welfare state. We're paying to provide social housing for the invaders and not for our own people. It's absolutely scandalous. Alistair.
Oh, it totally is. It totally is. And we do look at that in the book, like who's getting welfare payments and for what. And the British government and the Scottish administration have been hiding these figures, and or at least not even bothering to collect them, because they know that it is political dynamite if they start collecting these figures and releasing them. And people don't understand yet, although it's slowly coming out, the extreme cost that runs to billions of the immigration invasion industry. And,
hundreds of billions.
Yeah.
The total cost.
Absolutely. And you do get some on the left who go, oh, it's all about, they'll talk to an extent quite rightly about the extent to which the financial class is to blame, but they'll never actually admit that we, the indigenous population, are being screwed over financially by mass immigration. They don't want to admit that, but they'll go out of their way to look at the extent to which the British are being screwed by the financial system and by the globalists. And so it's very important that we expose all of this. And there are people doing good work. I mean, Matt Goodwin is doing some good work on this. He's a prominent commentator who's always bringing these figures to the fore. I would like to think that if we can get next year sufficient numbers of people into the Scottish Parliament, then they will demand that the Scottish administration starts collecting these figures and starts publishing these figures about how much the Scottish taxpayer is paying towards all the various levels of immigration, legal and asylum seeking, because it is huge. And the amount of welfare that immigrants are entitled to is absurd. For example, if you come in on a visa, a work visa, and you stay here legally for 5 years and you're perfectly legal, you are then entitled after 5 years to apply for something called indefinite leave to remain. And as soon as you get that, which you will get, you are then automatically entitled to all the welfare benefits of a normal British citizen, even though you're not even a British citizen. And so all the people who came in under the Boris wave, I mean, that's about 5 years ago now, they're all coming due for indefinite leave to remain status. If they apply for that, as they will, then they will automatically be onto the welfare register, and they'll be getting everything that anybody who is a signed up proper British citizen will get, even though they are not British citizens. I mean, that's just absurd. Why do we even have indefinite leave to remain? It's an unnecessary status. It was introduced, you won't be surprised to hear, by Ted Heath for some reason. And I don't know what his argument was at the time, but we've still got it. That should just be scrapped. I mean, we shouldn't be paying. If you come in here as a legal immigrant, you should be able to work, pay your taxes, but you shouldn't get any access to the welfare system. You should be paying your own way. And when you can't pay your own way, then you're going to have to leave and go back to your own country. And there shouldn't be any way that you enable yourself to get onto the welfare system. And we talk about this in the book, about how citizenship in the UK is so easy to get. You need to get first indefinite leave to remain. Once you've got that, you have to wait a year, and then you become a British citizen. But that won't actually give you very much more than you've already got under indefinite leave to remain. But why do we even have citizenship? Why are we giving out citizenship to every Tom, Dick and Harry who happens to squat here legally for 6 years? I mean, we should just scrap that idea as well. Or say after 25 years of legal paid up residence, you can apply for citizenship, something like that. But we're just, when you actually break it down and look at the laws in Britain, it's as if somebody said, let's make it as easy as possible for foreigners to stiff the British public. And these are laws that we've been living under now for 50 years. And it's no surprise that we're now in this situation where the country's going bankrupt and we're surrounded by people from foreign lands who have got who are just really here in many ways to make money from us.
Can I just ask John a question now, Al, if you don't mind? Since you talked here, since the Second World War, obviously we've had wave after wave of immigrants, right? Now, what we've faced now is complete cultural transformation. The indigenous culture of this country is being marginalised. We are really becoming part of a kaleidoscope of multiculturalism, just part of it. And the other cultures, like Hindus, like the Muslims, whatever, the Africans, they're allowed to celebrate their own cultures. And so we're feeling like aliens in our own land. John, as the son of an immigrant, right? Your father came from the West Indies. He intermarried into the British community. They had a very sort of an old-fashioned British culture, the West Indians. I knew a lot of old West Indian guys. They went to church every Sunday. They wore their Sunday best. They were very patriotic. I mean, they had a love of the Queen. I knew a lot of these West Indian guys. You go into their houses, and they had a portrait of the Queen on the wall. That's where they come from, that culture where the British were highly esteemed and British culture was highly esteemed. They played our games. They played they didn't play soccer. They played cricket. They played dominoes. They were almost like a throwback to pre-war Britain, you know. And they came and integrated into this country and really quickly started to merge in with the rest. But that's not happening now. How do you see the cultural transformation, John? Because you live in Oldham as well, compared to the past waves of immigration and what's happening now.
Right. Couple of things. So, I mean, we talk about the effect on white people, but the effect is on everyone who's in the Western world. And I've done videos on the breakdown of the Caribbean family, which is in tow with everything that's happening to the white British family here and stuff like that. And when we did first have immigration, we never had as much immigration as that we've got now. We're just like tens of thousands a year in a period of time. Now we're getting hundreds of thousands and stuff like that.
Million a year, over a million.
Yeah. Also, what we're doing, we're and there's many Islamic scholars have said this. Islamic people, all people across different we're letting extremists in. We're letting extremists in, not just Islamic extremists, Indian extremists. When there was trouble in Leicester, there was an Indian guy on saying, "You've let Indian extremists in." That's what he said on telly, you know. So I'm not taking it from like a white man's view. I'm taking it from other people who are in this country. And there is a lot of ethnic minority people who speak out on this kind of issue of the swampness and everyone coming in and the changing culture and stuff like that. It's, you know, they speak out, they speak about it as well. There's a lot, you'll see a lot on the media, but there is plenty of documented and video evidence of other leaders telling what we've done wrong. You know what I mean? And we're only just coming round to it. But, you know, my dad's seen the change coming. And how do I know that? Because he tried to warn the council in the 90s about some of the policies and the kind of people who were coming in. And then we had the riots in 2001. And my dad seen it coming. He definitely seen that change and seen it coming. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said anything to the council beforehand. So, you know, it's a massive issue. And people have known it's going to become like this for years. But our government and authorities have suppressed it by calling us the buzzwords and the deadly sins and stuff like that, and shutting down debate by being infiltrated by foreign organizations like the Middle East Forum and stuff like that. And you know, we're doomed. But people did know, you know what I mean? And it is a big change. It really is. You know, I made a statement the other day and I said there were none of this in like 2000s, early 2000s, there were none of the stuff that we have going on now, all this woke rubbish and people getting locked up for dirty words. It just wasn't like that. Everybody lived together pretty all right. But now, in just like 25 years, it's anti-white and anti-Western, and it's absolutely stamped on some people's forehead. So the change has been dramatic. People have known it's been coming, and we haven't done nothing about it.
You know what, John? The key word you used there was suppression. The criticism of what's going on, calling politicians to account, exposing their lies, that's all been suppressed. They've used that buzzword, the R word, to suppress any debate. Their control of the media. We've always believed in England that we live in a free country, or Britain, the United Kingdom. We live in a free country and we're allowed to express ourselves. We have freedom of speech, and we have a free press. But that's all a lie, because the whole political class and media class and academic class has been lying to us since the 1950s about immigration. This is why a book like this is so important, because it clarifies all these issues that they've lied about. Now, protect our country. They've had no interest in protecting our country. Their only interest has been protecting the floods of immigrants who've transformed our country.
Yeah.
And they've been totally reckless in this as well, the people they've let in. But go on, Alistair. I was talking about suppression. You must know all about this.
Well, yes, I just want to agree with what John said there. I think that it is possible for immigrant communities to integrate into a dominant culture, provided that the numbers who come are sufficiently few and they come over a very long time, and then you just have a natural integration. But that's nothing like what is happening right now. What is happening right now is making integration impossible. It is, as you mentioned earlier, Paul, it is more perceived as replacement. It's like turning, I mean, integration is yesterday's story. Today, it's, are we being deliberately turned into a foreign country? Now, I like to always be optimistic. And in my book here, I suggested that if we do get the numbers under control, and that's very easy to get legal numbers under control, because people are only entering legally for work, study, family, tourism, and all of these things. They need a visa at the official legal port of entry, and if they don't have a visa, they can't get in. So you can stop it to zero tomorrow if you just do not issue visas. So legal immigration can be got under easily enough. There's lots of ways to stop the channel crossers and all the fake asylum seekers. And if we combine that with removing welfare from huge cohorts of immigrants, what you will find is that they will leave Britain naturally, because it is no longer the land of free milk and honey for them. So we will get hundreds of thousands, if not millions, leaving every year as a consequence of a determined government that says you're not getting your freebies anymore, and that clamps down on the numbers coming in, which can all be done very easily. So can we get such a government? Who knows? Lots of people have hopes for lots of different parties. I like to think that we can, and I like to think that we can actually send huge, well, not even send them deliberately, just see them leaving because it's no longer a country that they want to live in. I'm talking about the people who are not integrated and who have no intention of, who are just here because it's good money for them. Lots of these people will go home under the right environment. And you can see that as well by just looking at the incomers and outgoers right now, and the statistics which we also examine in this book. And you find that of the people emigrating, the people leaving each year from Britain, only a small proportion are actually what are called British nationals. The overwhelming numbers of people who leave Britain every year are foreigners who are not British citizens, and that's every year. So if we stopped immigration in tomorrow, except for returning British nationals, if we stopped that, then there would be hundreds of thousands leaving every year who are not British citizens. We look at that in the chapter where we say it's easy to. Our aim is mass emigration, and you can get mass emigration pretty quickly by just simply restricting all the legal visas. You'll find
the problem is here, Ali, is this. Your book is called Protect Our Country. They are pushing a narrative, and I've pushed this narrative for decades now, that Britain, our country, is a country of immigrants. That this is nothing unusual, that this is no threat to us, because this is who we are. We came to this country as immigrants, and this is just another wave of immigrants. And Britain really is just a history of immigrant waves. Now, that's a lie. The British are an indigenous people. They have been here since the Bronze Age. Yes, there were ancient waves of immigrants. The Celts came in. The Celts were not the indigenous people. There was the Bronze Age Alans were the indigenous people, but the Celts came in. And then we had another wave with the Romans, and then the Saxons, and then the Normans. But they're getting smaller and smaller. And by 1066, it was all over. So we're going back effectively 1,000 years. We've had 1,000 years of nationhood in this land of a people. And of course, all these different groups, whether they be Saxons, Vikings, Normans, were all closely interrelated, and Celts. And this same process of nation forming was taking place in France. Of course, France was once called Gaul. It became France because the Germanic tribe, the Franks, took over. Italy, the Lombards took over. Italy was a mixture of Northern European people. Spain with the Vandals. See, we're all interrelated across Northwest Europe, and we're very similar people. Now, obviously, we went out and created a global empire, and there was going to be consequences to that. And Liverpool. I mean, I live in Toxteth in Liverpool. We had an immigrant population before the First World War. We had a Chinese community. We had a West African and West Indian community here. But as you say, in small enough numbers to integrate and not to threaten the dominant culture. What we're seeing now is that the dominant culture is being completely undermined. As you said, I think it was John who said, there is now an anti-white culture. I mean, I was attacked today on X as a white, fat, old white man. I thought, and straight away I come back and said, you're anti-white. You're exposing yourself. And this was a Jewish lady who claimed she was white herself, but obviously she has something against the white people. And we've seen this with a lot of the radicals for immigration have come from the Jewish community. We have to notice that. And they have actually pushed this anti-white agenda for their own purposes. Now, this is a hot topic, and it's a topic that really is too controversial to address even on a stream like this. But it's a fact that this immigration, mass immigration, has been engineered. We talk about the Kalergi plan. We talk about the impact of the Rothschilds family and Warbeck and Winston Churchill. He actually went round with Kalergi, promoting the Kalergi plan, which was about a breakdown of the nation state. This is what immigration, mass immigration, is really all about. Destroying the nation states and creating a global world. Controlled by whom? Controlled by global institutions. What are the global institutions? The United Nations, their beloved European Union, all the other global bodies, such as, we talk about the ECHR, but the International Court of Human Rights. This is an unaccountable international group of people who can impose their will on the nations of the world, especially on the European nations, the nations of the West. And they've used immigration to break down our sense of citizenship. I mean, Ali talked about the way these people are coming over, and it's transforming who we are. It's transforming our communities, our sense of coherence. This was all deliberate. They're seeking to break down our own identity, to undermine our identity. You see, it's not just protect our country, it's protect our Britishness, protect who we are fundamentally. And within that Britishness, which was always sort of personified by the monarch, we had the home nations, the Scots, English, Irish, and Welsh, which are all the same. For me, they're the same people. The people of the United Kingdom, of these British Isles, have moved around like a washing machine, spinning round for thousands of years. I've got Scottish ancestry. I've got Irish ancestry. I've got Welsh ancestry. And this is the norm. And, John will probably be the same. You will be the same, Ali. This has been the norm over the centuries. I mean, the Scots originally were an Irish tribe that moved over from Ulster, Fergus MacAlpin. This is our history, our ancient history. We have an ancient pedigree. We are an ancient people. We're not a nation of immigrants. And we have to overthrow that narrative and reimpose the narrative that these are our islands and this is our European home, because this is affecting the whole of the West, as I say. It's not just affecting Britain. And we have to assert our ownership of this, because you say in the book, Ali, if we don't assert our ownership, we'll lose it. This is what happened to the Indians, the Red Indians in North America. They were dispossessed and replaced. And this is happening to us now. We're being treated like the indigenous populations of Australia and America. But we are a nation. These were tribes. Which had no sense of nationhood. We do, and we have to defend that. John, did you want to say something?
Yeah, thank you, Paul. Thank you. Just a big shout out to the chat, everyone watching. We've got like 400 people watching, a lot of them on well over 200 on a Force for Good's X channel. Again, guys, ladies and gentlemen, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Comment on any of our videos or anything like that. If you want to get in, Alistair's gone. He did say he had to go, but he might have just knocked off by accident there. If you want to support us, you can do. I've already put the link to the Amazon thing to get Alistair's book, but obviously I'll be taking it after Paul. It sounds a decent read, something that I'd like. So we'll get on to that. But again, thank you to the chat. I actually did a speech on British and English ethnicity. Pat obviously liked it. He's put it on X, and it was a question pulled out on me. The demo on, the protest on Saturday. So just I'll put it up. It's only last a couple of minutes, and we'll listen to this.
What do you say makes you English? Like, if someone comes over from another country and then has children, or would you say it's once you get citizenship? Or would you say your family has to be here for multiple generations?
Well, it'd be multiple generations to be ethnically English. And I mean, my ancestry is Jamaican, half English, Anglo-Saxon, going back 22 generations. So I've got a big history here. But, you know, if you're a Japanese person, you come here and you have a kid, that kid's never going to be ethnically English or ethnically British because the Japanese, it's a Japanese ethnicity. Same if white people went to Japan and they had a kid over there, two white people, that kid wouldn't be Japanese, would it? Not ethnically Japanese, would it?
Some people on the other side would say, basically they would bring up the Anglo-Saxons, which lots of people say is the original English, and say that they come from the continent of Europe, meaning the English has always been influenced from other countries, going all the way back to the Roman Empire and things like that, implying that
we're a nation full of immigrants. Well, Anglo-Saxons were 1,000 years ago when they came, and that bloodline is still here, 1,000 years. You know what I mean? And the British are made up of the Celtic, the Anglo-Saxons, and the Normans. And they've been here for 1,000 years on this island, 1,000 years, and no one else has come. It's just them three things. So that makes them English. That makes them ethnically English. 1,000 years they've been here. So, you know, like, if like they'd only been here 10 years, then maybe there might be an issue there. 1,000 years we've been Celtic, Norman, and Anglo-Saxon, and that is the English ethnicity and identity.
Anything else you want to close on?
Your difficult questions, you. Okay, how honestly. No, get involved in local politics. That's how we're going to change things. We've left it too long for these numpties who are in control. Even if you're on the left and you're running elections, I'll give you. Right.
Good answers.
Yeah. So yeah. Very good there. A bit on the spot by TKE Media. You can find him on YouTube. Tony's called, but he's an unbiased reporter, and I like Tony. So you know, it's been an interesting chat tonight. Again, don't forget, I put the link to the Amazon link for Alistair's book is in the chat. I'll just do that again. I will do that again in a minute. Matt, and then 6 this Saturday, they're all gathering outside Holyrood.
12.
Sorry. They're all gathering outside Holyrood, so that should be a very interesting thing. I've been to George Square and I've seen some of the protests and demos in Glasgow and in Scotland, and they are good. They are good. They are exciting. We do have a bit of a Scottish contingent actually up there, Davey and Caroline. So I will mention to Davey, and I'll text him. I'm sure he'll already know because I know that he goes to the Holyrood demonstrations and stuff, but I will let him know. But thank you to everyone in the chat. Anyone who's new, thank you very much. Please like and subscribe to the channel. I'm sure we will have Alistair on again, and maybe after I've read the book, we'll get Alistair on again. But any last words, Alistair and Paul?
I'd love to be back on the show again. Thanks very much for having me. We're having our Enough is Enough rally outside Holyrood Parliament this Saturday, the 6th, noon, for a 12:30 start. Going to be lots of good speakers. It's going to be the first ever major immigration restriction event in Scotland that I know of, certainly in the modern age. certainly the first in Edinburgh. And sorry, the first immigration restriction event in Edinburgh. We had a big one last year, of course, in Glasgow, but it's the first big immigration restriction event in Edinburgh outside Holyrood this Saturday, 12 for 12:30 start. Please come along if you support what you've heard tonight. Thanks.
Paul, any last words?
I want to ask Alistair a question before we finish. The book is dedicated to a Stuart Connell, a great British patriot. Can you just tell me something about Stuart and his life?
Thank you. Yes, Stuart ran a page called British Constitution, and he was just a year older than I was, and he worked in the civil service. He worked for the MOD, and I met him at the time of the referendum campaign, the Scottish referendum campaign back in 2014. And he was quite influential in in teaching me about how the British Constitution works and how governments have the authority derived from the people theoretically. And he was a good constitutionalist, a good activist, and very you and him would have got on very well, actually, Paul, because he was very concerned about the falling away of Christianity in his lifetime. He had been in the Boys' Brigade as well, and he had always seen the moral angle to Britain's decline also. And he died suddenly. I never knew, and I don't know what it was, and I hate to think that what it might have been, but he certainly just went, and it wasn't any underlying problem. So that was a very surprising loss to us up here. And I'm just going to reach over there actually and get a picture of him.
I always think it's important that we remember the heroes of the British resistance, because we are a resistance movement. And obviously Stuart inspired you, Ali. We inspired each other. And there's a picture of him.
Yeah,
and,
that
a man, a Christian man, a constitutionalist. Sounds a really important guy. You know, these people make a great contribution to the movement. There's many that I've met along the road. And, you know, God bless them and may he rest in peace and rise in glory. One day, all these heroes will be remembered when we overcome the hostility we've faced for so long, and we reassert that this is Britain. It's simply our home, and we've got to protect our home. As Ali said right at the beginning, we don't have any other home, and our home is being taken from us. It's not only just to make us comfortable and secure, it's about our children and our grandchildren and the future. The long continuity of the British people. We've just talked. John said there 1,000 years. You could double that, treble it. Go back. My family's been here for 17,000 years. You know, they were Picts and they were Celts and they were ancient people in these islands. And I don't want to lose these islands. They're so precious to me. I want to pass them on to my future generations. We've received them from the past, and we've got to pass that baton on to the future. We've got a responsibility. We can't remain passive in the face of our own replacement. This is a conquest of our land that's taken place, and it's horrendous, really. Our politicians have betrayed us. The Lib Lab Con, they've lied to us since the Second World War. Now is the time for truth. Now is the time to stand up. I hope people in Scotland come to this rally in Edinburgh. We had one in Liverpool last week, and the left come. They wanted to, you know, they're paid agitators. They're agents of the globalists. But the ordinary people were there this time, and the people of Liverpool stood proud. And all over Liverpool, the Union Jack is flying, the Union flag, and the cross of St. George, such as the cross of St. Andrew in Scotland. People are reasserting that this is our home. How dare these politicians, these traitors, give it away and destroy our borders? So thanks for your book, Ali. Brilliant book. A real asset a real source of information, and we have to win all these debates, and we have to have the arguments. And of course, after the next election, we hope maybe there'll be a reform government, but certainly a government that will put the British people first. We've got to. This is the time now. This is the time for action. It's now. We have to save it. It's now or never. Thank you.
Now is the hour.
Paul.
Thank you very much,
Alistair. Thank you, everyone in the chat. That was great. That it was really good, and I'm looking forward to checking the book out myself eventually. So, thank you, everyone in the chat. The mighty Paul Rimmer, and got the awesome Alistair. Am I getting your name right? Alistair McConnachie.
I would say McConaughey.
Yeah, McConaughey. Right, yeah, McConaughey.
Yeah.
Right, sorry. But yeah, thank you very much. God bless everyone. Good night, and I'll see you Friday.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.